Hello, I'm Robert Squatterama on the beautiful Mackinac Island. Welcome to our debut episode of In Focus Michigan, a new weekly public affairs show where we explore the issues impacting Michigan residents. Each show will feature in-depth, balanced discussions with a diverse group of newsmakers, from government officials to expert analysts and community leaders. And joining us this Sunday is Michigan Congressman Jack Bergman, who tells us his background before entering the political realm and his role in the House in Washington, D.C. Plus, we look back at the devastating ice storm that impacted Congressman Bergman's district and led to $50 million in federal aid. And later, Congressman Bergman talks about how he's protecting the state's natural resources and how federal cuts will impact the process. All that and so much more happening right now on In Focus Michigan. Congressman Bergman, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for joining us on our debut show of In Focus Michigan. We're so excited to have you.
Well, it's my honor.
Let's get to know you a little better for our viewers who may not know about your personal life. We also want to introduce our viewers to the format of In Focus Michigan. You are the highest-ranking combat veteran to have ever served in the U.S. House, and you represent the entire Upper Peninsula as well as the northern Lower Peninsula. That's a massive district. You must be putting a lot of miles on your vehicle.
When you have half the state and you have the two peninsulas, and with minimal air service at pretty much all of our airports, it's logistics to make it work. And I tell you what, I got a great staff. We've been together now 9 years, and we've gotten pretty good at scheduling the time here in such a large district.
Right. So for those who may think that you take a helicopter to and from places, that is not the case.
Not, boy, if I could, I would. But when I first got elected, I had a small plane because I am a pilot, a career pilot. Mm-hmm. And I tried, when I first got elected, to utilize my plane to get around the district quicker. But every time I'd plan something, the weather'd go bad, and I'd have to end up driving anyway. So I sold my airplane, and I just planned to drive so that I can meet my commitments to the constituents.
Sure. We are here at the Agro-Business Association conference. Tell us about what this is all about and why agriculture is so important to your district.
Well, when you think about the state of Michigan as a whole, we are two peninsulas who grow many different things, whether it be potatoes, whether it be cherries, apples, trees. If it can be grown in the soil that we have, with the climate and the growing season we have, Michigan historically has been an agricultural state. And what we have in the state of Michigan, especially with Michigan State University, is one of the premier research departments in agriculture in the country. Now, a lot of whether it's Michigan State or Florida State or Arizona State, all of these land-grant universities that deal with agriculture, Michigan is a leader in this climate when it comes to ag research.
What inspired you to make the move and go from military to you're an airline pilot into politics?
I was retired for 6 years. Literally, I had taken off my uniform the last time in the end of 2009. And I had time finally, after decades, to actually look at what was going on in our country. And after about 5 years, I said, I wonder if there's some way I could serve my country, serve our country, because it's not, it's my country, but it's your country, it's our country. I could serve again. And just like out of nowhere, our representative here in the 1st District, Dr. Dan Benishek, God rest his soul, decided not to run again. So it was an open seat in 2016. And I said to my wife, hey, honey, if I put my name in the hat, will you support me? She goes, go ahead. Who's going to vote for you? Nobody knows you. Well, don't challenge a Marine, because I'm going to show you why. So it was out of a history of service, whether it be in uniform or in civilian clothes, whatever it happened to be, that I said, I'll take the next step, because I don't know much about state level government. I'd never served in it, but I had served because of my 3 stars. I had served in Washington, D.C. and done countless testimonies at hearings, subcommittee hearings, meetings with members of Congress, whether it be Senate or the House of Representatives. So I had a boots on the ground understanding of how DC worked or didn't work, if you will.
Sure, sure. You mentioned your time in the military. You also, as we mentioned, you were a commercial airline pilot for 22 years, I understand. How do you believe your life experiences impact what you're doing now and understanding that perspective to serve your constituents?
I've been around a long time. I'm closer to 79 than I am to 78. Okay, I've had a chance to see a lot of things, travel the world, be in the private sector, and also I was in the operating room equipment business for 30 plus years. Grew up in a small town, so the values, the family values that I had, where everybody in a small town kind of pitches in whenever you need it. I grew up with a family that went to church on Sundays. I believe that I have, especially through the eyes of my 10 grandchildren, the oldest of whom now are 24, that I've got a good perspective into the world of what it's like to be a 17-year-old in our country, and that helps because as a parent, you're right in the mix. You're day on, stay on. As a grandparent, you can step back a little bit and look down 2 generations. So as I look now at my role in Congress, as I look at where we are, and we got just so many fine members of Congress, Democrat, Republican, good people who got elected. Now, how do we coalesce as a body in the House of Representatives to do good policy? And most of what we do is policy, not law. And how do we keep the family moving forward?
Let's talk about the size of your district again, because it's the second largest congressional district east of the Mississippi River. A lot of land mass we're talking about. How do you serve every corner of your district when it's so large?
Yeah, a great question. 2 things. Number one, the best thing about social media these days is that my constituents know where I am every minute of every day because my schedule is out there. And what I get is the phrase, people used to get was, well, we haven't seen you. Where have you been? Now, the question I get is, how'd you get here so fast? Okay, so my team through social media, through our offices, not only in DC, but in Traverse City and in the UP, we interact on a lightning fast basis with our constituents that have an issue or want to get an opinion heard. So we utilize, whether it's phone calls, whether it's text, whether it's emails, and quite honestly, when you start with emails especially, our constituent service as the rate of success, and a lot of times we measure that by resolution of issues that people have, our ability to reclaim or recapture money for our constituents from the federal government back to the pockets of the constituents we're in the tens of millions of dollars per year of recapturing money that is owed to our constituents. But we utilize the tools of the time, and plus I've got a great staff, and we have very low turnover in our staff. So I'm very proud of everybody, but it's the interaction with everybody in the district.
How are you working to protect the working class?
Well, I think I don't think protect is the right word. I think it's to grow the working class, utilizing the tools of the trade, if you will, that we will be using today and tomorrow, as opposed to the tools of the trade. Let's use the auto industry as an example. In the late 1990s, Ford made the decision to automate some of their assembly lines. Okay, and they had discussions with the UAW and they came to an agreement because they saw that they were going to need to, number one, to maintain a quality product and be profitable as a company, they needed to automate. They were going to get a better quality and basically have a better profit margin so they could pay their workers. When the crash came in 2008 or thereabouts, Ford basically didn't have the problems that some of the other auto companies did. So I would suggest to you what the role here in Michigan, we have to look at, what do we call Detroit? The Motor City, right? Why? Because we were the foundation of the beginning of the auto industry. We created it. So if that auto industry is going to exist for the future, what does it look like? I would suggest to you the future of Michigan, when it comes to innovation, design, and manufacture, Michigan is motors. Motors will run everything. It's not going to be your internal combustion engine when we think historically of motors. It's going to be chips. It's going to be new ways of building a motor. I really believe that the future of Michigan as that innovator, that creator, has got all to do with motors, whether they're in the air, on the ground, on your workbench, below the water, whatever it is. That's where Michigan can be the leader going forward in that innovation, and then therefore the production of motors for the future. So we have to broaden the use of the term motor.
There are a lot of concerns right now about the economy, about the impact that tariffs could have on the working class. Also, concerns about the price of goods. What are you hearing from your constituents, and what is your opinion on the state of the economy?
The economy, anytime you have an economy that is dependent on outsiders, could be other countries, let's say in this case China, you're behind the power curve. That's an aviation term. It means your airplane could fall out of the air. Okay? So we as a country need to be forceful, but collegial in our negotiations with other countries about import, export. You cannot, if you export products, that means you're exporting jobs. We know that the jobs that we had 20 years ago or 40 years ago are not going to be the jobs of the future. We as a country need to balance, again, growing our own from the technological edge for our student training. It's literally starting as early as the robotics teams in the high schools. If you ever want to see a great competition, go to a high school robotics competition. These kids are spectacular. They support each other, and it's the sincerest form of joyful competition. But we have to understand that we are part of an economy that is global, in nature. But how do we, as a country, have the policies? Now, this gets to a lot of cases with the federal government and trade policy. We don't take advantage of other countries, and we're not going to let them take advantage of us. And we've gotten away from that for too long in some previous administrations.
Should people feel hopeful right now?
They should, yes. The short answer is yes, but the way to remain hopeful, now I know you want people to watch your show, is they got to turn their stuff off every once in a while, walk outside and see the fresh air and see the colors, because we're right now at that time of the year when Michigan is so spectacular as the leaves start to change. And the sooner we get snow, the sooner we can open up our snowmobile trails, and now people really have fun in the Michigan winters. But they should feel hopeful, they should feel optimistic, but they also have to guard very closely the information they consume, because too many sources are trying to make it, Debbie Downer, if you will, to use that old phrase. They want to bring you down. I'm here to tell you, the news is good, but you also got to, get out of your chair and off your couch and participate in the economy.
Now let's move to a little bit of a darker topic. The northern Michigan ice storm from earlier this year.
Yep.
Obviously impacting so many in your district, outages for weeks, temperatures below freezing. What was your reaction to that event that devastated so much of the state?
Yeah, well, I was up here, literally driving around within about 48 hours after it occurred. That truly was if you look at statistically how that could have happened the way it did, with freezing, rain, ice buildup, then 24 hours later, more freezing rain, ice buildup without melt, and then the third day, the chances of that happening are so infinitesimally small, but it happened. Now, what do? Kudos to all the first responders and the way they were able to change how they normally would do emergency response because of all the down trees, all the down power lines, because you can't send crews out if you got a hot line on the ground. You don't want anybody to get electrocuted. So the emergency management by the state of Michigan, and in specific the communities and the counties here in the district, that they deserve. I visited the command centers and watched the interactions go on. Kudos to everyone involved. We were able to get some initial relief for parts through the federal government, but we know that companies like the electric companies went out way on the edge because what they had to do. We're still working with the White House to get the federal relief now for those companies that have really dipped into their coffers to not. They didn't say we don't have the money as a reason to not get the power back to the customers. They dug out of their own, but they still have to remain in business if they're going to provide power going forward. But we're still working it with the White House to get more relief for those areas that didn't already get it.
You mentioned the federal aid, $50 million. Where is that money going to be used?
That $50 million mainly goes to the counties.
Okay.
And that's for their administration of all that. The money that we're talking about, the next funds need to go to like Presqu'île, the power companies that weren't part of that. It's a different way to make sure that the money gets to where it needs to be given what happened. Because it wasn't just the standard approach, okay, here's what the companies and the communities did. It's a standard, cookie cutter, we can stamp it. No, there's funds needed by the power companies.
Do you fear of another climate disaster happening, something similar to this?
I don't fear much. Okay, that's just not who I am. What I would fear, if anything, is I would fear that people didn't stand up when the time was right to step up to do the right thing. That's the only thing I guess I fear, is that if I didn't do the right thing for the right reason. The fact that weather patterns, especially here in the Great Lakes, if you look at the history, oh, by the way, the history goes back billions of years. We only have recorded history of less than 200 years. That's not even a drop in the bucket when you look at what are patterns in the world in which we live. So do we have to be aware of climate conditions? Absolutely. Be aware. And number one, when you think about, and I'll give you one example where we can always do better, and California is the example of really not doing it at all, and you see what has happened in keeping our forests managed. In other words, down trees, clean them up, don't provide that kindling, so when there's a Santa Ana wind like they have in California, and all of a sudden, poof, I mean, anybody who's ever started a fire knows that you need oxygen and you need a little breeze and it'll blow up on you quickly. So our responsibility, I believe, as part of maintaining the beauty and ensuring we don't have devastation, is to manage our forests, because trees are a crop. Just so you know, they're a crop. You grow them, you harvest them, you make things out of them, you replant them again, and it might be a 40-year cycle depending on the species of tree. But that's who we are up here as Michigan. We needed the forest industry is part of our agricultural, if you will, industry, and we're blessed with some great old growth. I mean, I live in the middle of the Ottawa National Forest, 2 miles from the Sylvania Wilderness area. So if you want to talk about the forest primeval, come up to the Sylvania Wilderness area in Watersmeet, Michigan. It's spectacular.
Do you think the state is better equipped now, following the ice storm, to handle a future disaster if it were to happen? Did we learn any lessons from the storm?
I think at the local level, yes, because as I talk to the counties and the different areas of jurisdiction, the after meetings, if you will, sit down, okay, what did we do? What did we not do? What are the lessons learned at the local level? It remains to be seen at the state level, whether it's DNR, Eagle, whatever bureaucracy within the state, are they taking in all the lessons learned? And the state wasn't a bad partner here, but it's a state level issue, so that we as a state are prepared for whatever happens next.
Some residents are concerned as they see the federal government cutting Forest Service personnel and those that are protecting the state's natural resources. What are the possible consequences of that, and are there any benefits, or are you concerned about it?
I'm not concerned in the least. We as a country at the federal level, because that's where I deal, we have the opportunity to adopt and adapt to processes that lead to results for those folks out in the Forest Service that are out on the trails. I'll be driving around in the district and I'll run into the crews all the time, the state crews, the county crews, whoever it happens to be, and we'll have a little chat. We all got our mosquito gear on because the bugs are they're active. But where we need to go as a federal government is to revise the federal bureaucracies and slim them down so they're actually accomplishing the mission that occurs in the forests, in the farmlands, on the waters. So we need more people, boots on the ground, not people sitting in an office. That's the adaptation that we need to do as a government. And again, I could talk for a long time with slides to show examples of where the federal government, and to an extent the state government, has grown bureaucratically, but not functionally.
Congressman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
We'd like to thank the Congressman for his time. We'd also like to thank you for joining us for this debut episode of In Focus, Michigan. From the Mackinac Island, I'm Robert Guadarrama. I'll see you next time here on In Focus.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. To keep up with important issues impacting our communities and hear more conversations with the people who are shaping the future, subscribe to our channel. You can also download our app or find Spectrum News on your TV for balanced, in-depth political coverage and more.